Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me to discuss why companies move from another exchange to list on Nasdaq is JR Mastroianni, Vice President of New Listings at Nasdaq. JR, welcome to Trade Talks.
Thanks a lot, Jill. Great to be on.
Why would a company consider switching to another exchange?
Well, there's really kind of two parts to that. So historically, companies at one point in time weren't really able to. There was an old rule in the books called Rule 500, which created some inhibitors to moving. So that was removed in 2005, kind of allowing for companies to do a side-by-side comparison and ultimately an executive-sponsored, board-approved move. So that's really when we started to see companies do these voluntary reviews. And then in 2007 is when symbology was enacted, where similar to the cell phone rules, ticker symbols 1 through 4-letter characters listed on both exchanges, and really the ticker symbol is the own property of the company. So the ease of move really kind of created a much more cohesive reason for why companies were to consider these listings comparisons.
What are some of the companies that moved from another exchange and now call Nasdaq home, and how many in total, including the notional amount?
The total amount is roughly around 1.8 trillion that have moved over. This year alone, we've had a little north of 194 billion in market cap. So recently announced Keurig Dr. Pepper and AstraZeneca announced this week in their intentions to move over to Nasdaq later this month. And in recent years, we've had companies like PepsiCo, Marriott, Regency Centers, Workday, and Exelon move. And really, it's been an encompass of some of the parts. So companies are transferring because of along with our advisory services. So we directly own and support listed companies with intelligence, IR insight information, governance services, and ESG services. We have a completely renovated and state-of-the-art facility and Nasdaq market site in the heart of Times Square. So it's a great branding platform, both for outreach to investors as well as to consumers. And then lastly, our fee structure and market structure really have become advantageous. So we are the predominant leader in the electronic multiple market maker model. And then from a listings point of view, we have very cost-efficient listing fees. So cost containment being certainly a key driver for all publicly traded companies is another advantage.
JR, what does inclusion in an index like the Nasdaq 100 or the Nasdaq Biotech Index mean for a Nasdaq-listed company?
Yeah, so inclusion into the index is certainly another driver as to why companies transfer. Companies that are of large market cap that are non-financial or non-REITs are eligible to join or be considered for inclusion into the Nasdaq 100. So that is certainly a benefit because it brings on a very large passive investor and one that is unique to being Nasdaq listed. All other major indexes that companies are looking to be a part of are really exchange agnostic. And then you touched upon the Nasdaq Biotech Index, which in recent years has really had astronomical growth because of all the success we've had in the biotech space with IPOs listing on Nasdaq, as well as companies transferring over to our market. And that really is another unique means of getting access to passive investors that are interested in that specific sector.
What's the process like to switch to Nasdaq?
It's relatively straightforward. So given how markets trade today through multiple platforms, we're already trading in most cases north of 20 to 30% of companies listed in other markets already through our market. It really, from an end user, if you will, an investor or media point of view, it's a non-event. So it really just encompasses an executive review once they see the merits of the move, preparation for a board recommendation, which is usually a 5 to 10 minute conversation, and then the actual administrative process of transferring is really about a 10 to 11 day process from a pre-approval on a streamlined listings application. Because we're already a publicly traded company, it makes it easier than what like an IPO review would be, a 10-day waiting period, and then they're able to transfer basically on the 11th day, and there's no cost associated, and it's a seamless move where nothing changes from last day to first day, whether it be their ticker symbol, their QSIP or CIK code. So as they operate as a publicly traded company is identical last day to first day.
Yeah, that's more seamless than I had expected. Once a company announces a transfer, what is the administrative process like leading up to the first day on Nasdaq?
Yeah, so what we do is we'll coordinate with companies in a couple of ways. One, we notify the trading community and the data provider community just so that they're aware, and that's more informational than anything else. And then we really are passionate about being a client-centric organization. So we'll coordinate with them from really announcement to day one on what they want that to be. And in some cases, it might be 2 months after they start trading with Nasdaq, where they might want to have a significant partnership event. So it could be a coordination of an acquisition or a major milestone for the company, or a brand launch where we've done things like do a remote sell with Pepsi, the Super Bowl in Atlanta when they were hosting the halftime event, and obviously use that as a major marketing event. Or doing a significant annual philanthropic endeavor like the Red Nose Day, which we've done for Walgreens, which switched a few years ago, annually every single year.
All right, Jared, thanks for joining us on Trade Talks.
Great. Thanks a lot, Jill.
And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.